Today, I'm going to share some gift ideas that'll make any photographer on your holiday list happy. All right, well, I'm just back from a really epic few weeks in Patagonia. Had an awesome workshop crew, had some really amazing adventures, crazy weather, beautiful scenery. And it's a story I can't wait to share a little bit more as I get everything culled and sorted through. And there's definitely some stories to tell from that trip. But first, I want to run through some of the gear that I've been using, some of the things that have helped with my photography over the last year. There's some new stuff, there's some old standbys, there's some things I've learned to use in new and different ways. And I think these are things that would make any photographer on your holiday list happy, even if it's you and you're maybe making some hints to some other people about what you might want for the holidays. So I'm going to run through them. There's a bunch of things that are cheap stocking stuffers under $20. Some other things that are a little bit more expensive, but nothing that should really break the bank, and all things that I think can really help improve the photographic work that you're doing and make photography more fun and a little bit easier. One thing for those that travel like I do internationally, there are some really cool new power adapters out there. I'm going to throw links to everything that I'm talking about in the video description. If you just click show more, you'll find a link to a page where I've really got links to all my gear, and I've revamped that whole thing, made it a little easier to navigate, access, follow, and updated everything with just the gear that I'm using presently. And I've also added this section with just all of these items linked right up at the top. But the page that you'll find this particular guy on, there's a couple of different models. If you flip these different switches, different power adapters come out for different countries. And then it's got a little nightlight built in. You can plug almost any world power outlet into it, any plug into it. And it's got a USB-C and 3 fast USB 3.1 USB charging ports on it. So there's 2 different models. You might want to get them both. I think they're both under $20. It depends on where you're traveling, which one you might prefer. That link is there. While you're traveling and while we're working with newer mirrorless cameras and camera technology, every time you change your lens on one of these new mirrorless cameras, the sensor is just sitting there exposed. This is the little Z50 that was waiting for me when I got back from Patagonia, kind of running through testing it. I'll talk a little bit more about it at the end of this video, but look for more about that coming soon. But the minute that you take a lens off, take a look inside. I mean, if you're switching lenses, the sensor is just completely exposed. There's not even a mirror box to protect it from dust. So having one of these little rocket blowers wherever I happen to be, I just always have a rocket blower in my bag to blow that sensor off. And I like having one of these little multi-LED battery-powered magnifying loops that just sits right there, and you can look in there and see whether your sensor's clean or not. You can see, oh gosh, up in the top right corner there's still a speck, and really target where you're blowing that blower brush to get it blown out. Both these items are under 20, are relatively affordable. They're in the $20 to $30 range. Definitely worth having. Little tip trick, pull the battery out of this when you're traveling because the button can get bumped really easily. Just put it in a Ziploc with its battery and drop its battery in when you're using it. It takes 10 extra seconds. So it's a simple watch battery, but you'll find that they get turned on and the battery wears down. So I just keep mine with its battery out. Those are just essentials. I'm also going to link a little wet sensor cleaning course, a course on just keeping your sensor really clean that I've got. It's a quick mini course that goes through and details how to clean your own sensor right up to and including wet sensor cleaning. Something that's actually really simple, not very hard to do. I mean, if you have any kind of technical skill at all, it's definitely not something to pay someone $40 to do. If you attempt it a couple times yourself, you'd be like, oh gosh, that's really not that hard. Plus, there's not always somebody around to clean your sensor when you're off in a beautiful place and you've got a bunch of dust on it. So another item, I mentioned this recently in another video, and I know a lot of people got them because I saw the Amazon and B&H links were used hundreds of times, but On this last trip to Patagonia, we had a lot of wind, and I think that one of these stone bags, they Velcro onto your tripod. They're easy to put on, take off. I always have one on my tripod. You get into a windy situation, you leave your legs short, and leave your center column down if you have one, drop a 20, 30-pound stone in this bag, and all of a sudden your tripod is rock solid stable and can withstand that buffeting wind. I've even shot time lapse and 100 km/mile winds that the time lapse looks rock steady. A stone bag is just essential. It can also work as a nice shelf. If you set your filters down in it while you're switching between different neutral density filters, just remember, take it back out, put it in your bag before you move location so it doesn't fall out and you lose it. But a stone bag, we're talking about a $12 item that can save your ability to shoot in windy conditions. I think 8 out of the 10 people in my Patagonia workshop had these, and the couple that didn't were super jealous on the windy days. It just enables you to work when you couldn't without it. I've been using this color checker from X-Rite. This is the Passport Photo 2 color checker. It's got a couple of different modes. One just has a gray card and a white balance card. So if you're out in complicated light, hold this up next to your subject, shoot it, and then all you have to do is eyedropper it when you're in Lightroom or on One or whatever, Capture One, whatever raw processing software you have, you just white balance by clicking. It also can let you do automated LUT creation using X-Rite software or Lightroom. And what that enables you to do is shoot this calibrated color checker card and in a specific lighting situation. Let's say you're doing product photography and studio lighting or a model shoot or a wedding, and you set this thing up there, shoot it, and when you get back, you can create a custom profile, a custom LUT that perfectly color balances that controlled lighting situation for your camera. So all you got to do is apply that LUT to all the images you shot in those lighting conditions with your camera, and you're going to have a perfect profile for that. Pretty cool thing. It's small, it folds up, and it's just invaluable. I've been carrying it with me all the time. Fits easily in my bag. Talking about getting your camera working and calibrated perfectly, this is a target that you can purchase a hard one, you can print it. I printed this on my 9900 from Rican for their Focal software. And what this does is helps you calibrate the autofocus between your camera body and your autofocus lenses. And it's a really easy to use, intuitive, automated process. You just put this target up, have it well lit, and the software, you connect your camera to your laptop or your computer and set it up with its lens, and you follow the on-screen instructions. It'll tell you how far to place yourself from the target, aim your camera at the target, turn on the software, and it'll do the whole thing for you and get your lenses calibrated so that the autofocus is more accurate than without. And let me tell you, if you're using DSLRs, this is really critical, especially if you do sports, action, and wildlife. You'll find that your interface between your camera's optical autofocus system and your lens's actual focus points are not always as accurate as you might think. And with DSLRs, it's even more critical because they're trying to calibrate that optical autofocus that's a rangefinder system with the lens's focus system, and they just often are a little bit off. It's a little bit less important with the mirrorless. I find that my Nikon Z6, Z7, and this new Z50 that I'm testing are much more accurate, but they can still be fine-tuned to get even more accurate. They're just, a couple of degrees off as opposed to 10, 12, sometimes 15 points off with the D850 and D500 that I use. Now, these are going to work with Nikon and Canon. I don't think it works with Sony yet. Check your camera manufacturer, look at Rican's software. I'm going to put links to this again in the links. There's 2 versions. If you get the Pro version, it'll also tell you where your specific lens with your body is at its sharpest, which apertures are better than others. It'll print this whole report about the performance of your lens at different, edge distances from the center, and it gives you a whole bunch of fun data. I think it's $90 versus $140 or $150. For me, I think the Pro version is worth it. decide yourself whether it's worth it or not. If you get the regular version, it's still going to calibrate your lenses automatically in a really, really cool way. All right, straps. My favorite strap over the last year. For years, I've been a big Black Rapid advocate. I love sling straps where the camera slides on the strap and the strap stays put on your body. Right now, I have a new favorite strap. I really like Lumalab's Loops. They're a local Portland company. Everything's made here in Portland, Oregon, made in the USA. They've got a CNC machine. They're really nice guys that own and run the company. I love how the connector to the camera is hinged, and let me show you why that's cool. Here's my Z7 with my Kirk L bracket that has a 1/4-20 threaded port on it. I just screw this little the connector right onto the camera, and you see how that hinge lets the strap move back and forth in its position. And this is just a really simple, easy to use strap. If I sling the camera like this on my body, try not to bump my mic here, sorry if I do, and I can really easily adjust with this ladder lock slider, and the camera can sit nice and tight on my hip or on my stomach and not move while I'm walking around. If I want to have more motion with it, I just slide that. Camera moves up and down the strap really, really easily. And you can see that having that swivel, having that hinge, makes it so that it hangs just the right way on my body and pops up and gives me more room to hold the camera up and get away from the strap itself. It's a really elegant solution. I've been talking about it for a while. Lots of people want to buy it. They haven't had much stock, but their version 3.5 is in stock right now. So if you want one, the link is there. Jump onto their website, grab one. It's a killer product. It's all made here, and they're constantly refining it. And I've certainly never had a problem with mine. And finally, I've got some cool new lighting stuff. So I've talked a bit about LumeCube's new panel light. It's a really, really powerful, really even, adjustable from warm to cool, even light source. It really puts a nice light out, and I've used it to do light painting. A couple of these in double arch lit up the whole inside of the arch for Milky Way. I've used it at Delicate Arch and at Balanced Rock on the Moab workshop, and in different situations, just adding a bit of light to a scene. It's really easy to control. This is just at 5% at 4,500 Kelvin. It's a real easy to use control system. Comes with a little diffuser. It's got a huge battery. At this level, it'll last for like 7 hours. And also, you can take power out of it, put it back into your other devices like your phone or something else. If you need to charge something, you can actually use this as a portable battery pack to jumpstart your phone or other devices. It's like $150. It's a really, really nicely made, easy to use, even light source. They've also revamped the original LumeCube, the waterproof, super powerful little LED light. It's now much more easy to use. It's got a better accessory attachment. It's got this press fit magnetized piece where you can put everything from diffusion domes to little diffuser panels and color temperature orange panels or specialty color filters on here. But one of the things I really like about it, that my favorite new feature of it is that once you turn it on, it goes from easy to manipulate 10, 20, 30, 40%. Or if I hold both buttons down for a few seconds, it flips into this new ultra low light mode, which is great for light painting with the Milky Way or setting up a constant light source to light some piece of landscape with the Milky Way or star photography at night. So instead of going 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 to 100%, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with a nice constant, ready for video, high CRA light source. And these are only about $90 and they are waterproof, super durable, just a really, really neat little tool that's easy to throw in your kit, ultra lightweight. I've also used it in situations where my headlamp's gone dead and I'm way out in the middle of nowhere, and instead of even getting out batteries and switching batteries in my headlamp in the dark, I just pull out the LumeCube and light my way home. So some really cool stuff. I think that any photographer would be stoked to get these for this holiday season. I promised I'd say a couple words about the Z50. I've just got it, and it was waiting for me when I got back from Patagonia. The main reason that I got it was to test it and see, I'm often asked, I want an entry-level camera. I don't want to spend any more than $1,000. But I wanted to take great photos. So I was wondering if the Z50 might fit that role. In the past, I've recommended the Sony a6500 for an interchangeable lens, kind of entry-level, cool, mirrorless new camera. I think the Z50's autofocus is easier to use. The system's just sort of easier to use if you want to take control of the camera. It's got great Nikon ergonomics and controls, a really nice viewfinder. There's some things that I'm not super happy about, like its lack of in-body image stabilization, and a few decisions they made that I sort of wonder about. But I think all in all, it's a great camera for a new shooter, a young person wanting to get into photography, a person who has a budget. And I'm actually letting my wife do a bunch of photography of our kiddos with it, since she's a great photographer and almost exclusively uses her phone because she doesn't want to lug a big camera around, and she's too frustrated by the limitations of point and shoots. So if you take a look at what I thought of as a really small camera, the Nikon Z series, versus this new little Z50, the Nikon Z6 and Z7 are both this size. I mean, we're getting small, and it's got most of the power that you pack into this camera in a really small package with an APS-C sensor. It's not a replacement for my D500 by any stretch of the imagination, since that's my sports and wildlife camera because of its just high-speed shooting and autofocus. But, it's a pretty cool little machine, and I'll be doing a lot more talking about it later. So look for some stuff on Patagonia from me. Look for a more detailed review of this Riken software, and I'll show you how it works and how cool it is for calibrating your lenses. I've got a bunch of stuff coming about calibrating your monitors and some Patagonia tales and stories to tell. Lots of fun stuff. Plus, I'm going to do a long-term, 1 year in review of the Nikon Z series cameras, what I love, what I don't, as well as a new and updated guide to how I like to set them up, my personal setup on those after having used them for a year. I'll put that out as a separate video. So lots of fun stuff coming. I hope people are enjoying this beginning of the holiday season, spending time with family, and I'll see you next week.